Hello everyone, this is TheNelston. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm here to talk about one of the strongest builds currently available for archers, the Orange Lily Rainbow build. Now this thing is ridiculously good. It has great effective HP, pretty decent damage, it's not top of the line of course, and to top it all off, it's really easy to get all of the items, and the entire set really shouldn't cost you all that much. This is a Spellspam build, which means it has a higher damage potential than the melee build I featured a couple videos ago, but it also means that you are going to have better ping in order to spam spells more effectively. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into covering the Rainbow Orange Lily build. As with any other build showcase, we're going to take a look at the items first before we get into some of the statistics. To start off, we are using Cancer as the helmet, Far Cosmos as the chestplate, Rainbow Sanctuary as the leggings, Capricorn as the boots, Moonpool Circlet as ring number 1, Drowy Fair as ring number 2, Prowess for the bracelet, and finally Diamond Fusion Necklace for the necklace. And of course, for the weapon, we're going to be using the Orange Lily with 1 tier 6 Earth Powder and 2 tier 6 Water Powders for the curse effect. And for the walk speed, we're going to be using a Return to Ether. You can use a Gale's Force, but personally, I like the Return to Ether for the plus 44 agility, which means you'll take a lot less damage, and it's just cheaper to get, so why not? Now it's time to take a look at some of the statistics of this build. Starting with the damage, we're looking at 25k Arrow Storms at a cost of 1 mana, 10.6k bomb arrows also at a cost of 1 mana, and arrow shields that will cost 14 mana since it is an Orange Lily build, but on the bright side will also do quite a decent amount of damage. And finally, arrow shield is going to cost 14 mana, and that's because it is an Orange Lily build, but to make up for that, the shield damage is not too bad. If we look at the survivability stats, you'll see that it has a 12.9k raw HP, but the effective HP is 63.8k, and of course this can be increased with things like tomes. Taking a look at some of the survivability stats, you can see that the total HP is going to be 12.9k, but the effective HP is going to be 63.8k, and even without agility, so meaning that agility never procs, you're still looking at about 28.8k or close to 30k. The HP regen is also quite strong. In game, you should regenerate about 400 to 500 health every 4 seconds, so you don't have to worry too much about taking damage because you should be able to heal it back pretty quickly. You don't really have any elemental defense issues because, yeah, even with the worst case, you're losing about minus 35 on the Thunder Death, but you're making up for it with around 363 Water Death and 245 Fire Death. For the mana, we're seeing about 7 mana over 5 seconds, which means that you can spam Arrow Arrow Bomb or Bomb Bomb Arrow, or if you want to be a little bit more careful, you can also use Arrow Bomb, and so on and so forth. The one thing I do want to say is that you should keep a little bit of mana just in case you need to use Arrow Shield, but do keep in mind that with things like Orange Lily, you're not going to be able to spam Arrow Shield as I mentioned before. You're going to have a plus 23% walk speed, which is pretty good for a build like this. And finally, you'll have 13% combat XP bonus and, 10% extra soul point regen. Before we get into a showcase of this build with an Eldritch Outlook run, we're first going to talk about some pros and cons. The first big pro is that it is extremely non-roll dependent. Now what I mean by that is all the items basically don't really require you to have good rolls on them. So for example, the Diamond Fusion Necklace, not roll dependent. Prowess, not roll dependent. Drowy Fair is semi-roll dependent, but you're mostly using it just for the first spell cost, so no big deal there. Moonpool Circlet, absolutely not roll dependent. Rainbow Sanctuary, not roll dependent. Far Cosmos, not roll dependent. Cancer, semi-roll dependent, although you can get a decent amount of health regen pretty easily since there only are 2 stats to roll for. The Orange Lily is a dungeon item, so also not roll dependent. The only thing that I would say is really roll dependent are your Capricorn boots, since you want to try to get a 3-4 mana regen, although it's not crucial that you get it, since it does run with 2-4 or even 1-4 mana regen, and the spell damage is also nice, but it's not that big of a deal even if you roll bad ones. The other big pro of this is that because it has so much effective HP, you can use this in pretty much any late game content. So for example, TCC raids, NOL raids, you could also do things like Panic Zealot or Eldritch Outlook, and you can do all those things with absolutely no problem, simply because of how strong this build is. So what are some of the downsides of this build? Well, the first thing I can tell you is that it is definitely not one of the strongest builds out there. In fact, it is one of the weaker late game ones, I would say. Because it only has 25k storms compared to other builds, like for example Crafted Spring, which can do up to 36 to 37k, or things like Divzer, which can do up to 44 to 48k, and just like anything else, right? This build is going to fare very weakly compared to them. Sure, it does have more health, but don't expect to be doing a crazy amount of damage. The final big downside I would definitely say is the arrow shield cost. The fact that the Orange Lily adds a plus 10 cost to it makes it so you literally cannot spam it, right? You cannot spam the arrow shield, which is a little bit sad. So do keep that in mind. Although I will say to counteract this, you can use something like the Return to Ether to use your arrow shield, not for damage, but to knock enemies away. And the plus 44 agility means you should be having this out when you're not using your main weapon for attack anyways. We've gotten to the top of the Eldritch Outlook, so now it is time to go fight the boss. So I already commentated this fight last time, so I don't really think there's a need for me to explain the fight this time. I'm just gonna basically fight through, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. And there we go. It was a pretty rough fight, especially when I accidentally let the wretch hit the eye, but you can see that most things in this dungeon basically did no damage to me, and overall it was a pretty simple fight. All I had to do was spam bomb, bomb, arrow, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you hated it, subscribe for more content like this, and as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.